This theory video is looking at diatonic harmony, specifically Roman numerals and chord names. What is diatonic harmony? As we have unpacked in previous videos, diatonic harmony are chords that are created using only the notes in a scale. In this video, we will look at the universal naming formats that you can use to identify the chords that are in a key. The Roman numeral system. Many of you may remember learning about Roman numerals in primary school, but since that time you haven't had a huge use for that knowledge in your day-to-day lives. Well, you do now. And to start off, we will recap on how to write Roman numerals and how they can be used to identify chords in a diatonic key. There are two categories of Roman numerals that we need to understand for this element of music theory. Uppercase Roman numerals are used to represent major chord qualities, and they look like this. A 1 is a single I. 2 is 2 I's. 3 is 3 I's. 4 is IV. 5 is V. 6 is VI. 7 is VII. And 8 is VIII, or a single I, because it's the octave. Notice they're all in capitals. Lowercase Roman numerals are used to represent minor chord qualities, and they look like this. A 1 is a lowercase I. 2 is a lowercase ii. 3 is a lowercase iii. 4 is a lowercase iv. 5 is a lowercase v. 6 is a lowercase vi. 7 is a lowercase vii. And 8 is a lowercase viii, or a lowercase I, because it is the octave. Remember how we discussed scale degrees? That they are the location markers for the notes in the scale? Well, we can kick this element up a notch and use Roman numerals to not only tell us what position a note or chord is in the key, but we can also use it to tell us what type of chord is found on that scale degree too. In our Diatonic Harmony major chord progressions video, we built this grid identifying all the chords that are diatonically related to A major. Now we can add the correct Roman numeral using the correct case underneath each scale degree to identify the position and the quality of the chord in that key. So the first chord is an A major chord, and using Roman numerals we can have an uppercase I, and we write the word maj for major next to it. For the second chord, which is a B minor chord, we have a lowercase ii, and we write the word min, which is short for minor. For the third chord, we have a C sharp minor chord, so we write a lowercase iii and min. For the fourth chord, we have a D major chord. We can identify that with an uppercase IV and maj. For the fifth chord, which is an E major chord, we can have an uppercase V, maj. For the sixth chord, which is an F sharp minor, we can identify this with the lowercase vi, min. For the seventh chord, which is a G sharp diminished, we can identify this with the lowercase vii, and we put a little circle or a degree sign, which is the symbol for diminished. And for the last chord, or the eighth chord, which is also an A major, we can identify this as an uppercase VIII maj, or a single I maj, because that is the octave, which is a copy of the tonic. Did you notice that the seventh scale degree has a symbol next to the Roman numeral? Because the chord on the seventh scale degree is diminished, we need to add the symbol for a diminished, which is a small circle, like a degree sign, to a lowercase minor Roman numeral 7. Why lowercase, you ask? Well, a diminished chord is related to a minor chord. So this relationship means that we need to identify this Roman numeral as a lowercase. So, the 1-4-2-5-1 progression that we used in our previous Diatonic Harmony major chord progression video can now look like this. 1, A major or capital I major. 4, D major or capital IV major. 2, B minor or lowercase I minor. 5, E major or capital V major, and A major or capital I major. This is what it sounds like. So, why use Roman numerals? The beauty of Roman numeral system is that when we are answering chord progression questions in our VCE exams, we don't need to think about the notes in the scales, and therefore we don't need to name the chords being played. We can use the Roman numerals to identify the chords that we hear using a universal tool that makes the scale that the chords are being played irrelevant. It actually makes life easier. Here is the same progression presented in C major, but if we write our answer in Roman numerals, we don't need to worry about identifying the note from the major scale that the chord is built off. The Roman numerals take care of that for us. So instead of writing the chord names as you see here, we can cross them out and replace them with I major, IV major, II minor, V major, and I major. This is what the progression sounds like in the key of C. I can hear you thinking, if the Roman numerals tell us the position of the chord and the quality of the chord, why do we need to write the quality of the chord next to the Roman numeral? Well, this is a great question. And while technically we don't need to write the quality of the chord next to the Roman numeral, the VCE prefers that we do. Why? Well, I imagine it is because people haven't been really clearly identifying the difference between the uppercase and lowercase Roman numerals. So this is a safety device to ensure that the quality of the chord is clearly being displayed to any assessor reading the answers. So we need to do it to be safe. But wait, we're not done yet. Besides Roman numerals, there is another universal naming tool that we use in music for each of the chords in the diatonic grid. Each chord position, other than having a Roman numeral that can be used to identify its location in the diatonic grid, also has a musical name. So looking at our A major grid again, the correct chord names identify the position of the chords within the scale. So the word tonic is the name given for the chord in the first position, in this case A major. The name supertonic is the name given to the chord in the second position, in this case B minor. Mediant is the name that is given to the chord in the third position, in this case C sharp minor. Subdominant is the chord name given to the chord in the fourth position, in this case D major. Dominant is the chord name given to the chord in the fifth chord position, in this case E major. Submediant is the chord name given to the chord in the sixth position, in this case F sharp minor. And leading is the chord name given to the chord in the seventh position, in this case G sharp diminished. When we get to the eighth position, it is once again called the tonic. So our sample 1-4-2-5-1 chord progression can now be identified in three ways. So the first chord is A major, it can be a capital I major, or it can be called the tonic. The 4 chord is a D major chord, can be identified as a capital IV major, or is called the subdominant. The second can be identified as a B minor, as a lowercase I minor, or can be called the supertonic. The 5 can be identified as E major, a capital V major, or can be called the dominant. And then we go back to the A major, capital I major, or the tonic. And this is what it sounds like. These chord names are also universal. So it doesn't matter which key you're in, the names and the positions in the scale that they identify never change. And here is a grid that will give you the name of each chord in their position. While we are not going to use the correct chord names in our oral chord progression questions in the VCE, we will use them in written diatonic theory questions, which we will unpack in another video. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful.